Well, this is a bit of a surprise, y'all. Here's CNN with an actual journalistic article on something that matters. So they say low wages linked with elevated mortality risk for middle-aged workers in the U.S. study finds. So we'll go through it here, but the gist of it is if you make low wages, it's deadly. Your mortality risk spikes. Now, a lot of people watching this are going, well, duh. But it's good to have it spelled out in empirical terms so that, we can make the case that to not do redistribution of wealth, to not look out for the poorest amongst us, that is sentencing a large number of people to an early death. So here's what they say. Middle-aged workers who tend to earn a low wage have an elevated mortality risk, especially when they experience unstable employment, according to a study published Tuesday in the medical journal JAMA. Researchers from Columbia University's Mailman School of Public Health tracked employment and health metrics for about 4,000 workers in the U.S. across a 12-year period using data from the University of Michigan's Health and Retirement Study collected between 1992 and 2018. All participants were at least 50 years old at the beginning of the study period and in their 60s at the end. Workers who had a sustained history of low wages, annual earnings below the poverty line for a family of four, were 38% more likely to die over the course of 12 years than those who had never experienced low wage earnings. Poverty kills. Poverty kills. That's what this means. The risk was more than twice as high for workers who had fluctuating employment along with sustained low wages. Shifts in labor market composition and worker shortages in high-demand areas have helped push up U.S. wages over the past 2 years. However, by and large, those wage gains couldn't keep up with historically high price inflation. Adjusting for inflation, wages and salaries declined 1.2% for the 12 months ending December, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics Employment Cost Index. Lower and middle-income workers, especially in industries such as leisure and hospitality, typically saw faster wage growth than high earners, and some even eked out gains that surpassed inflation. However, household incomes remained uneven, and those groups continue to be disproportionately hurt by higher inflation, research shows. So, on top of this study, I'm reminded of an article from back in the day, a study from back in the day. Recession led to 10,000 suicides. So this was published in June of 2014. It's about the 2008-2009 subprime mortgage crisis and Great Recession. And they find that these, when there's an economic downturn and poverty spikes and unemployment spikes, it literally leads to more death. You can attribute it to there's more stress, more anxiety, more depression with economic instability and low wages, and that in turn leads to more deaths. It also reminds me of the whole conversation around what's called deaths of despair. If somebody, has no job, has no hope, has no prospects, doesn't have a reason to get up in the morning, a meaning or purpose, and doesn't have any stability, economic or otherwise, a lot of people are going to, turn to drugs or suicide, and all this stuff is avoidable. All this stuff is preventable. I think that's the main takeaway here, and I think that's what needs to be stressed, is that it's not just a matter of opinion and a matter of politics. Like, hey, we should redistribute, we should help people at the bottom. It is literally a matter of life and death. It is a matter of survival. And we saw this with the expanded child tax credit, that when they did that, you had child poverty drop by about 50%. They cut it in half, like that, just through one policy change, one choice that they made. And then in turn, you had a massive decrease in depression and anxiety. So these are all things that are, we could tackle it. We can tackle it. We can fix it. It just requires good policy changes. So universal basic income comes to mind, or social security for all, as I like to call it. That comes to mind. Expanding the child tax credit yet again. Unions for all, that makes it much more likely that there won't be turnover, where people have to leave one job and go to another, then leave that job and go to another. 4-day work week also. That people want to stay with the companies that are doing the 4-day work week. So if we went to that as the norm, people would be much less likely to, switch from one job to another. So you're trying to bring about loyalty, stability, higher wages across the board, which increases quality of life, which decreases stress, anxiety, depression. And these things are all, like, again, it might be obvious to you, but when you see the numbers on paper, when you see the actual results from the study, which say in no uncertain terms, low wages are deadly, well, I mean, it should be a mission of the country to abolish low wages. There shouldn't be low wages. If you leave everything up to the market, there are going to be low wages. But that's because we don't live in a meritocracy. We live in an anti-meritocracy. It's not the harder you work, the further you go. You need to work 4 full-time jobs at minimum wage in order to survive and pay for your housing. That's crazy. We have tens of millions of working poor people in this country. That's crazy. They work full-time. They don't make enough money to survive. We should be eliminating all of that. We should be abolishing all of that. That should be a national initiative. But, you know, people in the political establishment and in the business establishment hearing me talk like this, they would say, I'm the radical. I'm the crazy one. For pointing out empirical research and saying, that's not good, we should change that. They would say, I'm the radical. No, in reality, the system is extremist, the system is radical, and the system has left regular people behind for far too long. So this needs to be changed. This needs to be changed ASAP. Because, look, we're still coasting off of the failures of history, right? With feudalism and then capitalism and this end of history analysis that acts like, well, this is all there is. It's just capitalism and that's the end of it, and there is no evolution from here. It's like, well, if that's your perspective, then you should know what you're signing up to. You're signing up to deaths of despair, suicides as a result of economic downturns, low wages literally killing people. You should know that. And I haven't even touched the conversation on universal health care yet. We have 45,000 people that die every year because they don't have basic health care. Could you imagine how many lives could be saved? How much stress, anxiety, and depression would be reduced if we just gave people universal health care and fair, higher wages? Tens of thousands of lives. Tens of thousands of lives, at least, probably more than that. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.